There are so many champions being adjusted for 14.21, so we've got a new look to the solo carries for every single role. As always, we'll be providing you guys with 3 champs for each role that have some of the greatest carry power for the current meta. And did you know mastering your champion will boost your win rate by a massive 9% on average? That's why at SkillCapped we offer Smurf commentaries. Simply select the champion you want to master and get guides from challenger experts teaching you how to play your champion in the exact rank you're stuck in. You're even guaranteed to have all your questions answered by that very same challenger expert. After that, take one of our 5 brand new courses that teach you the secrets to carrying as a top laner, jungler, mid laner, AD carry, and support. It doesn't stop there. We have new Season 14 courses on macro, wave control, trading, setting, and hotkeys, CSing, vision, mechanics, low elo mistakes, the list goes on. The best part, you can try all this out completely risk-free. Since if you don't rank up while actively using SkillCapped, you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below right now to get the rank you've always dreamed of. There are a bunch of top lane champs being nerfed for this patch. However, one very powerful pick who avoids nerfs and returns to the top 3 is Shen. Shen is extremely powerful right now with his Heartsteel Rush and his ability to go toe-to-toe in lane with the majority of meta fighters. Into popular champs like Garen, Nasus, Yone, Riven, Jax, and Cassante, Shen is winning over 53% of the time against all of them. As long as you can play around your W cooldown in lane and trade aggressively when it's up, you should have no issue stacking up a ton of grasp procs and bullying out your opponent. Shen's short trades are just so lethal because not only do you get bonus damage from Q, but you're also proccing Grasp and receiving bonus damage from Shield Bash as well, so it's really easy to just whittle down your opponent by abusing Shen's short trade power. It's only AP bruisers that you can run into more issues against when playing Shen, as they are less reliant on auto-attacking to deal damage, which makes Shen's W less effective, so banning out Gwen or Mordekaiser is a good idea. Heartsteel will be your rush item, followed by Hollow Radiance or Sunfire Aegis second, and then Thornmail and Kaenic Rookern can be interchangeable third pickups. As for the rune page, you should be taking Grasp with Shield Bash, Second Wind, and Overgrowth, while Sudden Impact and Ultimate Hunter are for secondaries. With both Camille and Nasus nerfed for 14.21, moving into the top 3 for top lane is going to be Malphite. Malphite is even getting a small buff to his base health for this patch, as it's going up by 20. The buff is pretty negligible, but the fact Malphite is being buffed in the first place is a bit odd considering he's been in a very good spot for solo queue as of late. Mal is one of those champs to where he's got some incredibly good matchups, but then there are some matchups that you have to avoid at all costs. Sylas and Mord are 2 of those more dreadful matchups that you want to avoid, so banning one of them is a good idea if you intend on playing Malphite. Your build on Malphite really depends on what the enemy comp is looking like, as you want to stack full armor against a heavy AD comp, but if the enemy team has some magic damage threats, then slotting in Kaenic Rookern can work well. Comet is the keystone rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Second Wind and Overgrowth for secondaries. It's important that early on in lane with Mal, you're playing around your Comet and Mana Flow cooldowns. Unless both are up, you should not be using your Q for poke, as you'll run out of mana way too fast. And for our third solo carry top laner of the patch, we have Mordekaiser. Mord did get nerfed in 14.20, but his relative strength has remained quite good, and with Camille and Nasus nerfed for this patch, it allows him to move back up. Volley has also been one of Mord's worst analytical matchups for a while, so the fact that Volley is nerfed for this patch is nice for Mord too. Something that you can look to play towards every single game with Mord, and what gives him an edge up in a lot of matchups, is his Rylai's spike. The sticking power on Rylai's completion helps a ton with being able to land Mordekaiser Q, and the item also only costs 2,600 gold. This cheaper purchase is amazing because most fighter items cost over 3,000 gold, which means if you're going even in lane, there should be a window where you've got your Rylai's and the enemy does not have a full item completed. You really want to use this window to your advantage, and if your R is up, look to fight. The complete core build for Mordekaiser consists of a Rylai's Rush into Riftmaker second and Liandry's third. Fiora is always a pretty good ban choice when you're playing Mordekaiser, as her W makes it difficult for you to ever land E. The rune page for Mordekaiser revolves around Conqueror, with Triumph, Haste, and Last Stand, while Bone Plating and Revitalize are for secondaries. A champ we have seen quite a bit at this year's Worlds, who's also a really great jungler for solo queue right now, is Nocturne. With the likes of Udyr, Amumu, Viego, Elise, Fiddle, Karthus, and Volley all nerfed in these past 2 patches, it's opened things up for Noct to rise in priority even more. There are 2 different builds that are going around on Noct right now, and we've seen both played at Worlds. It's either the Stridebreaker Rush or the experimental Hexplate Rush, and based on the analytics, Stride is performing best in solo queue. What you can actually do for solo queue that pro players aren't doing right now though is rushing Stride and then just building Hexplate second. Build offers up a lot more solo carry strength, and for solo queue specifically, the setup just makes a lot of sense. Rounding out the core with Sterix just makes you super durable when looking to dive the back line in the later stages of the game. Banning out a meta peel support is always good value if you intend on playing Noct, so Lulu is a great option right now. Conqueror is the keystone Keystone Rune for Nocturne with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, followed by Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter for secondaries. With all the junglers nerfed for this patch, one jungler we had in the top 3 for last patch who gets even better now is Jarvan. Nock and Jarvan both have similar strengths in the sense that their engage range is top tier, but if you want a little more early game ganking power, then siding with Jarvan is the play. Jarvan is one of those junglers who not only can gank super well early on, but his kill threat at level 6 becomes even more insane, so you've got many different power spikes to look to snowball the game off of. Meta build right now is quite offensive as well, with an Eclipse Rush into Sundered Skies second, so the one-shot strength against squishy targets if you get ahead is real. Jarvan likes playing into champs who lack mobility, as it makes his engage way more reliable, so banning out whichever ADC with mobility is most played in meta is always a good idea. Right now, we've got Kai'Sa being played in about 30% of games, and with her R, she can look to dash out of Jarvan R, so she's a solid ban choice if you're picking Jarvan. The optimal rune page for Jarvan revolves around Conqueror with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, while Freeboots and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. Now that Liandry's junglers are no longer as powerful, it's opened things up for someone like Kha'Zix to crack the top 3. Ka is definitely the best pure assassin jungler that you can play right now. The champ is just so powerful when he gets ahead, as the point-and-click one-shot power gives you the ability to absolutely take over games. Ghostblade Spike provides Kha'Zix with an incredibly powerful skirmish, as he's able to move around super quick and easily catch out squishy targets. There's even a Hubris Rush build that has been seeing more play in the higher elos, and it actually has the highest win rate for any rush on Ka right now. If you end up getting an early kill, then going for Hubris is going to give you some really crazy snowball power. With Elise being played more in meta as of recent, she's a good ban to consider when picking Ka, as her Spiderlings do a good job at shutting down Ka's isolation damage. For the rune page, look to grab Dark Harvest with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter, while Freeboots and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. Continuing to be one of the best solo carry mids that you can play for another patch is Sylas. Sylas is going to be liking 14.21 even more because two matchups that he's had a negative win rate against for a while now, being Hui and Galio, are both being nerfed. Vex is still going to be one of the best bans if you intend on playing Sylas, as her passive Fear does a good job at countering Sylas's mobility. For the build on Sylas, Storm Surge Rush is actually winning the most right now, and our challenger expert Hector even likes the build, as he played it in his recent full game commentary that's on our website. The core Hector ran consists of Storm Surge into Rocket Belt, as the build just offers up a lot of early to mid game snowball strength. Your one-shot power on Storm Surge completion is really good, and then the added mobility you get from Rocket Belt really helps to push an advantage. Optimal rune page for Sylas is Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. You can go either Sorcery or Resolve secondary depending on the matchup. In a more difficult lane where you are going to get poked early, then going Resolve with Second Wind can work great, but if you're in a melee versus melee lane and can avoid taking damage early, then going for Sorcery is the play. With Sylas, it's all about scaling up into that super lethal level 9, so players are definitely sleeping on Resolve secondary in more difficult lanes, as it actually has the highest win rate for any secondary page on Sylas right now. With both Hui and Aurelion Sol nerfed for 14.21, moving up into the top 3 for this patch is going to be Ahri. Ahri has been right on the brink of the top 3 spot for a while now, so these indirect changes will give her that added rise in priority. What's so great about Ahri is that she's a really good neutralizer. She doesn't hard lose lane to anything and can come out of lane even or ahead more often than not. The only matchup in meta right now that Ahri has a negative win rate against is Sylas, so he's worth a ban, especially with how popular he is right now too. The meta build for Ahri is all about stacking as much ability haste as possible to get her R on a super short cooldown so that you can be constantly fishing for catch plays in the mid game. Malignant's Rush into Horizon Focus second is the core. Your goal with Ahri in the mid game is to play around R cooldown. When R is up, you should be looking to hard shove out a side lane, and then when you've got priority, look to roam mid for potential flank angles. Fog of War is your best friend with Ahri, so setting up around key objectives a little bit prior to before they spawn can net you some really easy pickings when enemies try a face check for vision. Keystone Rune for Ahri is Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter, followed by Mana Flow and Transcendence for secondaries. With a ton of mids getting nerfed for this patch, there's one champ that's going to gain even more relative power, who players have really been sleeping on as of late, being Anivia. Anivia has been the highest win rate mid over the past couple patches ever since the item overhaul. With less burst in the game, it's great for someone like Anivia who wants those longer drawn out fights where she can really take advantage of her consistent damage. Matchup wise for Anivia, it's only more longer range champs or champs who can easily avoid your R who can give you some issues, so banning out Hui or Ahri is a good idea. Anivia plays very well into most melee mids and has been winning over 53% of the time into Yone, Yasuo, Sylas, Zed, and Katarina. The standard core build for Anivia consists of a Rod of Ages Rush into Archangel second and Liandry's third. Electrocute is the best keystone rune for Anivia, followed by Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter, while Presence of Mind and Cut Down are for secondaries. Moving into the the ADC top 3 for 14.21, after benefiting a ton from the 14.20 changes, is Caitlyn. Caitlyn priority is heavily on the rise right now, as not only was she directly buffed last patch, and also indirectly buffed due to the collector changes, but with Kai'Sa and Blade of the Ruined King nerfed in 14.21, Kate's relative strength rises even more. It's an AD heavy centric build for Caitlyn right now, as you rush the collector and go right into Infinity Edge second. None of this Shiv into Fire Cannon nonsense that deals no damage at all. You're going full out damage with this Kate build to take over in the mid game. There's even a build that we'll have to monitor throughout the patch that could have some viability on Caitlyn, as a Hubris Rush is quite interesting for a lethality core. Setup isn't really being played a ton right now, but the underlying numbers are quite good, with Hubris winning a ton, so definitely try it out and see how you like it. You really want to be able to have the early push with Kate and play aggressive in lane, so banning out a meta ganking jungler like Jarvan will help to unlock that for you more consistently. The rune page for Caitlyn consists of First Strike with Free Boots, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are for secondaries. Caitlyn wasn't the only ADC who saw a spike in power last patch due to the collector buffs, as Neela is looking very powerful right now as well. Neela is even getting a few quality of life buffs for 14.21 too, so she's getting even stronger. The collector being so much cheaper now is great for Neela, because she's an ADC who needs to get the ball rolling early on to be most effective. You can't just go even with Neela and expect to win against a lethal tempo ADC post 25 minutes, so more early game snowball power with the collector buffs are amazing for her. It's the exact same 2-item core that Caitlyn is playing right now, as you go into Infinity Edge second. Third item can be Immortal Shield Bow or Lord Doms, depending on what the enemy team comp is looking like. Banning a meta support who can nullify your early game all-in power is a good idea when playing Neela, so either Rel or Lulu are good options right now. The best rune page for Neela revolves around Conqueror with Triumph, Bloodline, and Last Stand, followed by Free Boots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. And for the final ADC to round out the top 3 for this patch, we've got Ashe. If you like ADCs who have a little more agency over how the early game plays out, then the meta is trending in the right direction, with both Kate and Ashe in really good spots right now. Ashe is one of the better answers to Kai'Sa because you heavily outrange her in lane, and with Kai'Sa nerfed for this patch, that matchup gets even more Ashe favored. Lethal tempo coming back into the game has been great for Ashe, as it amplifies that consistent DPS strength when you have Q active. The best build for Ashe has her running Kraken Slayer, going Phantom Dancer second, and then Bloodthirster third. Since Ashe lacks a gap closer, banning out a meta dive champ is always good value, and Jarvan or Nocturne are two good options right now. For the complete rune page, it's Lethal Tempo with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown, followed by Biscuits and Approach Velocity for secondaries. With Senna nerfed for this patch, it's going to give even more priority to an already strong enchanter like Lulu. Recent direct buffs and also Lethal Tempo coming back into the game have given Lulu that added push up in power to make her one of the best supports. Playing with a Lethal Tempo ADC and getting them to 3 items is Lulu's dream scenario, because as long as you're peeling for them in fights and keeping them buffed up, the DPS potential from your ADC is massive. To hit a quicker early game spike and provide your ADC with even more damage, look to rush Ardent Sensor instead of Shurelya's. You already have enough peel power in your kit for the early and mid game, so that you shouldn't need the added movement speed from Shurelya's as much. Going Shurelya's as a second item makes a lot more sense, because that's the point in the game to where you'll be team fighting more, and the extra peel power will be of great use. Blitz is always a pretty good ban if you intend on playing Lulu, due to his catch power and shield breaking mechanic. For Lulu's rune page, look to grab Airy with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Bone Plating and Revitalize for secondaries. So it turns out the nerfs last patch did not really affect Poppy all that much, and she's back in the top 3 for 14.21. What's so great about Poppy is that her all-in power is just so lethal. If you have flash available with Poppy, the gank assist is incredible, as you can look for a flash angle to where you can knock the enemy into the wall with your E, and it's pretty much a guaranteed kill if you can execute on that. Poppy also plays very well into hook supports and most engaged supports, because her W does an amazing job at halting their engage potential. Ranged supports are who you can run into more issues against, and with Lulu being played so much right now, she's a good ban to consider. Not only is Poppy's all-in very strong and damage output great for a support, but she has some of the best peel in the game as well. If the enemy team has a fed carry who's looking to dive your ADC in fights, using Poppy R can completely nullify that champion from getting anything done. Deadman's Plate is the rush item for Poppy, and then Locket is a good second pickup, while Bloodsong is the item upgrade. The rune page is Hail of Blades with Sudden Impact, Zombie Ward, and Relentless Hunter, followed by Hex Flash and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. And to round out the solo carries for support in 14.21, we've got Senna. Senna is getting nerfed for this patch, with her armor being reduced. However, all we think this will do is shift build priority even more towards Black Cleaver, while Senna should remain in a pretty good spot. If you're going for the more squishy enchanter build, then you're definitely going to be more vulnerable, but if you're rushing Black Cleaver, the champ should feel completely fine even after the nerf. Black Cleaver builds have actually overtaken enchanter builds play rate wise over the past patch, which is great to finally see, considering we noted how strong Black Cleaver was for Senna such a long time ago, but it just took the general player base quite a while to catch on to the build. After going Black Cleaver, there are a ton of viable options right now, as Fire Cannon is the most popular. However, Echoes of Helia is a valid alternative if your team already has plenty of damage. Pike or Blitz are both valid ban choices when you're playing Senna, as their catch power means you have much less margin for error being a squishy champ early on. You should be taking Airy for the Keystone rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, while Font of Life and Revitalize are for secondaries. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to round everything out for our 14.21 edition of the best solo carries. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.